when I got to know Tim, one of the early things he said to me, and I feel like he'll say this, so I'm not misrepresenting him, but he says, "I don't work for God anymore."
Mm.
And I kind of heard
Yep.
that. And and the way Tim would always talk about it, he's like, "I just want to walk with Jesus.
Yep.
I just want to walk with him."
That's it.
And and everything that I'd ever read about Jesus the man, I was like, you know, I think Tim Timmons is like the purest form of a Christian I've ever met before in my life.
I'm Andy Erwin, and this is the Storytellers. Coming up on today's edition of the Storytellers, I get to sit down with just a guy that's had iconic roles and has a huge fan base. And as soon as you say Milo Ventimiglia, the whole internet swoons. It's like, Gilmore Girls has just been an amazing phenomenon for years now. And then my personal favorite heroes, and then This Is Us. He's had an amazing career with all of those things, but continues to be perpetually known as one of the nicest guys in Hollywood. Just a good dude, and has a great work ethic. I loved working with him. And to welcome him into I Can Only Imagine 2 as our Tim Timmons was a real treat. So would you welcome my guest, Milo Ventimiglia? Welcome to the Storytellers, Milo Ventimiglia. Glad to have you on the show, man.
What's up, dude? Stoked to be here, Andy.
Man, sitting in your new backyard. I love it. And I was just laughing that when you were trying to find a place to sit and you dragged over 100-pound bag of sand from your workout room, and I'm like, okay, I'm very inadequate here. So
Yeah, I mean, you make do with what you have, and I'm like, and I don't have any outdoor furniture yet because finding a new place to live, and yeah, so a sandbag,
well,
100-pound sandbag, it works.
if you want to, present the manly image, it's like, hey, that it's like, oh yeah, I'm not, I'm like a regular guy. I'm the face of the Call of Duty video game. So, so it's all good.
I mean, listen, I thought it was just more of a functional thing, like I'm functional. I need a chair. What can I get that's low enough? My sandbag, let me tip it sideways. All that works.
I love it, dude. When you and I met, when we were casting I Can Only Imagine 2, and Lionsgate, brought your name up on their short list. They're like, if we're looking for a Tim Timmons, you need somebody that is really going to ground this into being a really great piece of art, but also that's going to kind of make it feel like a big movie. And your name was on the top of that list, and I was like, oh my gosh! And I had loved you since Heroes. I wasn't maybe the Gilmore Girls demographic, but I'd love.
Do you want to do you want to really quickly sidestep and tell everybody what you had me do, like when I first stepped into Kingdom Story in your office?
What did I? Oh, yeah, there was that. Okay, so one of my traditions is I always collect action figures of people that I work with that are of note, and so if I can find one, it's a good thing for the shelf. So when he stepped in, I was like, don't judge me, but I have a action figure of Peter from Heroes. Can you sign this for me real quick?
Yeah, totally.
And you humored my Comic-Con moment. So
of course, man. Of course, I thought that was awesome.
I loved it.
I don't even know if those things were around, so I was stoked that you had one.
I love it. So and then everybody knows you from This Is Us, and that was universally beloved. And Jack's death is still deeply affecting people from that show. But when we had our first Zoom and you kind of read the material for I Can Only Imagine 2, we fell in love with you. I was like, not only is this dude, I have to have him for this movie, but we're going to do a lot of work together from this point on. What was your early, what attracted you to the movie, and what made you want to take that Zoom? And then what were your first memories of that interaction?
I mean, originally it was a script, I read the script and I thought, God, this is just beautiful. And the characters are wonderful. And the character they're asking me to play, there's so much to it. And then I went backwards in my research where I watched the first film and I was like, oh, this is a great film. And I was watching John's performance because I knew he and I would have a lot of dancing to do. And I was like, he's putting some good work in on the screen, and it feels honest and it feels real. And in that's kind of like the world that I always operate as an actor is if a performance feels like a performance, it's
Yeah.
it's a performance, versus letting the character live from action to cut.
Yep.
And that's what I felt like I was seeing John do in the first film. And that's the space that I operate in. I'm
Yep.
like, oh man, this guy and I, we probably do the same
Yep.
two step. It's going to be great. We're going to have a good time. So it was script, it was character, it was watching the first film. It was learning more about Tim, honestly,
Yeah.
and then you know, watching interviews and listening to music and understanding that, music is not in my bag of tricks.
Yep. Did that scare
Guitar
you
is
when you
not
read the
in.
script and you're like, I got to tap into this, or
It
do you
didn't
like the
scare me.
challenge?
It didn't scare me. I didn't even look at it as a challenge. It was just like, this is going to take some work.
Yeah.
So my entire life has always been summed up with, if I outwork
Hmm.
everybody, if I even outwork myself, I'll be in a good place.
Yeah.
So I look at it as, oh, it's just doing good work,
Yeah.
as well as kind of like service. You're just doing a service. And the more that I watched of Tim in interviews and listened to his music and was like hearing his like prayer through song and all that, I was just like, let me put the work in and let me honor this dude
Yeah.
who just seems to be, from just an outside point of view, just one of the most magical human beings ever.
Yeah.
And then when you and Brent would talk about him, and it's like, oh, he's probably just want to go for a walk with you and like, have a conversation and all of that. Um, and I met him, and he was exactly that. He's just this very grateful, um, honest,
Yeah.
true, just human being
Yeah.
that's like so full of love. And I was like, wow, man, that's if I can kind of capture his essence and who he is, and do it with this beautiful script that you and Brent were presenting to me, then yeah, this would be wonderful. But then on top of that, and kind of even before that, were a lot of the conversations that we'd had
Yep.
just about the intention of the film and what we were doing, what you guys were looking to do with the movie. um and the story you were wanting to tell, and a lot of that, my confidence was first settled with you and Brent and the conversations that we
Yeah.
had, where I was never on shaky ground, but it's like, you want to know you're going to be able to link arms with somebody and walk along a path together.
Yeah.
No, and you're going to kind of lead and follow and lead and
Yep.
kind of do all this different stuff, and you're going to throw challenges at me that are going to make me raise my game. I'm going to throw things back at you to make you raise your game,
Yep.
and then you just have what comes up on screen.
Yep.
So like early days, that's all it was. It was a script, it was character, it was Timmons, it was you and Brent, and it was John. It
Yeah.
was John Michael.
Yeah.
Those are the things for me that I was like, I think this is going to be great. And then of course, you know, hit a difficult patch in my life
Yeah.
with the fires and losing my house and doing all that stuff. And then I was like, well, no, actually, I think this is going to be healing.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be good for my family.
Yep.
And heck, let's just do it.
It's kind of that awkward first date when you're trying to figure out like what makes this person tick.
Mhm.
And so I did my homework on you before we had our Zoom. So Kaya Wiegand, who's directing a film for us up next, and
Mhm.
and was one of the lead writers on This Is Us.
A homie.
I reached out to her, and then I know Chrissy Metz, and so I reached out to both of
Mhm.
them, and so I just said, Milo Ventimiglia, what's your opinions? And Kay wrote back, she said, the man is brilliant. He can have chemistry with a doorpost, and he's absolutely a team player. And she was like, and she just, with all exclamations and in all caps, was like, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. And so, and then everybody else that I interacted with that knew you, that were like common friends, were like Milo. And I there was zero people said anything, negative about you. It was like there was no. And I was like, this guy is a unicorn. And so then after we had the Zoom, it really confirmed that. I was like, okay, tone wise, neither one of us are ego people. We're very much about like the team mentality and being kind of
Mhm.
setting the tone at the top. and we
Hmm.
both saw the same story, and you're both committed. You talked a little bit about your work ethic, though, and you said I'll outwork everybody, and I think that is one of the places where I will mirror you for sure, because it was like, uh, I may not be the most talented person in the room, but I dare anybody to outwork me, and you take that up,
Dude,
with three or
I
four.
usually say I usually say I'm not the most talented, but I'm a nice guy.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
nobody wants to work with a jerk. But if
Nope.
you're nice and like you're kind of talented, it's like okay,
Yeah.
we'll tolerate the
I'll
the
take
notes
it.
you can't hit.
I'll
We'll tolerate you can't hit that high C. We got it.
yeah, I'll challenge the talented part, because you're wicked talented. But for you, where did that work ethic start from? Like, where did you get that? Like,
Oh man, dude, we're gonna go way far back. So when I was a child, literally like coming out of third grade, my parents tested me for the honors program,
yeah,
and it was called the GATE program, the Gifted and Talented Education.
yeah,
So there was like GATE kids, and then there were Reggies.
yep,
So my dad was a Reggie, my mom was GATE, my oldest sister was GATE, and my middle sister was a Reggie. So I'm like the split decision
yeah,
now, like,
yeah,
oh man, am I going to make it into this program? Am I not? So I go, I'm third grade. I go through all this testing and whatnot, and I come out of it, and I'm just exhausted and tired and cranky, and probably need to eat and just go play with my friends and be a third grader. And when these teachers sat down with my mom and dad, they said, "Look, he's not as naturally smart as everybody else, but he works 5 times harder than all of them."
wow,
And because of that, they ended up like putting me on that honors track. So from fourth grade, as I'm getting out of high school, like I'm in the classes with all the naturally gifted kids that are just like, oh, they look at an equation, they're like pi, and I look at it and I go, I don't. Is that a three? Is that a one? Is that a four? I don't get it.
huh,
What are they doing together? But I'll figure it out. And so for my entire kind of childhood, I was always challenged with being around the smart kids, and
huh,
I'd have to keep up. And if I wanted to keep up, not only did I have to keep up, I had to excel. I had to like push harder.
wow,
Where the work ethic comes from, I don't know.
yeah,
But I think being a child and I was never told I wasn't as smart as them. I was just told, hey, you're going to go do this, put the work in.
yeah,
And from that young informative age, I think for me it was just work harder, and then it just became this machine inside of me where like I'm just constantly just trying to work and perfect and perfect and perfect and do better and better and better. um which I think on the other side, is great, or sorry, it's great for me because I'm always going to push through, I'm always going to like find the ways. But on the other side, like and this, like I'm tough on myself,
right, very,
very,
very.
very critical and very tough on
Yeah, a
myself.
lot of
It's
times
like
I'll stop you and I'll be like, "Could you just be kind to my friend Milo?" It's like,
yeah, pretty much, man, pretty much.
yeah, I love that.
Hmm.
What was it? Where did you find your desire to act? Like, what was the first thing that you saw, or first thing you followed that you're like, "Oh, this is kind of something I want to do with my life"?
I mean, when I was a child, my older sisters and I, we would just like play pretend, make believe all the
Sure.
time. We had this smaller house. We were living in a little 3 bedroom. My sister shared a room. I had a bedroom, and my parents were like, we were all kind of like around the central hallway, but it was like a long hallway and then like a common area, and then like
Yeah.
bedrooms were just branched off. So my sisters and I would close all the bedroom doors, and we'd play underwater caves.
Hmm.
And like there was this classic book that actually I found my dad found a copy for my daughter so I could read it to her, called Water Babies, and it's about these like little kind of like sea children that live under the
I
ocean. So
remember
we'd
that
like put
book.
on,
My,
yeah, okay.
yeah, okay, we had that one too. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so, like, we'd put on, like, my mom's shower caps and, like, go play water babies in, like, a dark hall, so, like, our imagination would just, like, run and be wild,
yeah.
which I think was probably the very first introduction to the world of make believe.
Huh.
And then as I got a little older, it got a little more structured. Those gifted classes I was in, they started introducing us to Shakespeare when I was in 6th grade
Wow.
and putting on plays and things like that, and I'm like, "Oh, this is kinda fun." I like wearing the clothes of somebody else and pretending to be somebody else. This is fun.
Yeah.
And then it kind of turned into repertory theater when I was, 12, 13, 14. And then I'd start auditioning for big productions that my mom would find in a newspaper. and getting in and kind of getting scouted by the
Yeah.
high school teacher to join theater when I was even ahead of high school. Like she was like looking for talent, like
Huh.
a Major League Baseball scout.
Interesting.
Um, and then it was her name's Mariana Herda. She was the one who really kind of brought me into the craft of acting.
Huh.
And I remember like I had two tracks in high school. I was wrestling in high school and I was acting in high school.
Wow.
And I remember Mrs. Herda said to me, she goes, "Well, what are you going to be, a professional wrestler?" And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, "Put your shoulders back. You're going to be a professional actor." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'm going to be an actor."
Uh-huh.
So,
That's amazing. It's cool when
yeah.
somebody, especially in those formative years, sees something in you that you don't really see. You think you're just, goofing around, and they're like, "Oh, this is what you
Yeah.
could be." Uh,
Yeah. Totally.
when did
Totally.
when did you decide to kind of like, I'm going to chase this as a profession? And I know your first gig was party goer number 3 on
Hmm.
Fresh Prince of
Fresh
Bel
Prince.
Air, and
Hmm.
and then from there you kind of struggled into being a working actor until Gilmore Girls comes along. So like, what made you decide like, I'm going to chase this? And what were those early days, the early struggle? What was it like?
I mean, when I was, coming out of high school is like, of course, like, am I going to try and go on a wrestling scholarship? And I was just burned out at that point. And then, I always loved the idea of helping kids. I was like, maybe I'm going to go into pediatric medicine. Wouldn't mind being like a pediatric surgeon.
Yep.
Again, don't have the smarts for it.
Yep.
I could outwork somebody, but like I didn't have the smarts for it. Another option, I was going to go into the Navy. I was going to go into the Navy, fly jets, go do something like that. But coming out of high school, there wasn't really like a big conflict that was kind of pulling me in that direction.
Yeah.
And this acting thing that I'd kind of done through high school that I really enjoyed, that I saw, actors ahead of me,
Right.
men and women that I admired. I'm like, I wonder if I could actually do this. I've got a lot of people saying, "Hey, Mai, you're really good at this. Like
Yeah.
this is, you know, kind of your gift. Like you're good at this. You should try this out." So I applied to a couple different schools in Southern California, of course, where I grew up. And to name, I applied to the UCLA School of Theater, Film, and Television,
Right.
and the USC School of Film and Television,
Which is huge.
which is huge. USC, I did not get into the School of Film and Television.
Yep.
They didn't take me, but I had the grades to get into the school.
Yeah.
At UCLA, I did not get into UCLA proper, the actual school, because I
Yeah.
didn't have the grades. But the Department of Film, Theater, Film, and Television wanted me.
Huh.
So I ended up going into UCLA, going to the School of Theater, Film, and Television. And at the same time as just, being a freshman in college and trying to, learn about myself
Huh.
and how you relate and work with other people, I was like, well, I'm going to hit the town and I'm going to try and audition and just see how it goes.
Yeah.
And quite quickly, I started working. I think Party Goer number 3 popped up.
Uh-huh.
And then I think something on Saved by the Bell popped up. And then before I know it, I'm like, I was in the union and I had to pay union dues and I had a SAG card. And I was like, wait, I got to pay money to do this? Okay, well, I got to go earn some money.
Yeah.
So I was waiting tables and I was working at a snowboard shop. And then I was also auditioning and then I was going to school and I was doing all this stuff. And then finally, at a certain point, I'm doing a TV show for Warner Brothers and it's getting in the way of work, or
Huh.
sorry, it's getting in the way of school and it's getting in the way of like snowboards and slinging pasta. And I was like, I gotta pick one. And so I quit the snowboard job.
Yep.
Wasn't working at the deli counter at this Italian restaurant anymore. I asked my counselor if I could take just one more quarter off because I got a job at Warner Brothers. And she was like, you need to reapply when you want to come back.
Huh.
And I was like, "What do you mean reapply? I've been here nearly 4 years. I'm almost a senior in good standing. Why can't I just come back?" And after like a long kind of tense conversation where I basically told her I was in a position to speak well of her school or poorly of her school
Wow.
publicly, what
That
would
takes
she
a
like
lot of
me to
guts. I
say?
like it.
Oh yeah, 21-year-old
Oh
kid, and
yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
"What do you want me to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah.
I'm doing a show for Warner Brothers. I'm doing a bunch of press. Like, how do you want me to represent your school?" And
Wow.
she was like, "You're right. You can come back whenever you want." But like in that, like I had made the decision. I had made the decision. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go full force into this acting thing and just kind of see where it goes." Excuse me. And like from there, it turned into a contract with Warner Brothers, like not just on a single show. It
Yeah.
turned into like a larger holding contract, which turned, ultimately at the tail end of that into Gilmore Girls, and then just I went on this long run where it was my only job, and it's been my only job since I was
I
21.
mean, the thing is about you is like, you and I are about the same age,
Hmm.
and you've got like 85 projects you've been a part of in the amount of time. Like
Hmm.
you've like hustled. And like
Yeah.
you've got 3 shows that have a cult following.
Hmm.
And it's been amazing to see that spin off. Like shows, some of these shows, like, each of one of them has their own following. Like I said, I came through Heroes,
Yeah.
but like Gilmore Girls in particular has had like this shelf life that's intergenerational. It keeps finding a new generation
I
of
was gonna
people
say your
that,
daughter must be into it too.
yeah, falls in love with Jess. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
I know Jess is adorable. It's great. So
Well, the funny thing is though is when they expect me to still look like I'm 24, and
y-
I was 24 when I shot that,
right,
playing 16.
and you had a baby face. You like
Oh yeah.
yeah, you still look a lot younger than, like, you look
Yeah.
way younger than me. Uh, what makes Gilmore Girls like just so lasting? Like, why does the fan base continue to be so rabid for that show?
I mean, I think I can actually kind of tie it back to our film. I could tie it back to I Can Only Imagine too. I think people want goodness.
Hmm.
I think there's something inspiring about a mother and daughter that are close and they're communicating. I think there's something inspiring about a young woman, Rory, who wants more and better for her life. I think there's something that is, I don't know, just inspiring and good. People want goodness.
Yeah,
And in a world that's like cynical, and in a world that's exploitive, and in a world that is just kind of looking for like the lowest, you know, clickbait type entertainment, I feel like Gilmore gives an audience something different. It
hmm,
gives them kind of this wholeness and goodness, and it's more inspiration and aspirational than anything.
yeah,
But at the same time, it's totally entertainment.
yeah,
And two, I kind of believe, I mean, this show came out in, I think,
yeah,
99 or 2000. I think it was shot in 99, 2000. I joined it in 2001. It's like you're coming off the 90s.
right,
90s were back for, a
yep,
period of time. So everything that was, from the 90s, every kid wants to devour,
yep.
just like for us, we'd go and listen to music from the 70s
70s,
and like the,
60s, 70s, yeah,
60s, 70s, and then our older siblings are listening to stuff in the 80s, and
yeah,
we were just children, so we pick up on that. So I think there was something about, when these kids were born or
yeah,
like close to being born,
for sure.
and living a little nostalgia and goodness.
Well, the goodness, that idea, that desire for goodness is kind of a theme in the body of your work, with, playing, Jess on Gilmore Girls, and playing Peter
Mhm.
on Heroes, and then ultimately playing Jack on This Is Us. It's been amazing to see you kind of continue to evolve and reinvent yourself.
Sure.
So, when you came to us and we decided that, hey, we're going to do this, I Can Only Imagine movie, and you signed on, you had a tremendous amount of work already to overcome, because I mean, you had to, brush up on your guitar play, you had to take vocal lessons, you had to really study
Mhm.
Tim. Um, how did you feel stepping into playing a real life character and playing Tim? And once you got to know him, what was your in on Tim? How did you study him, and what unlocked the character for you? And then, like, how did that friendship kind of ultimately kind of start?
I mean, one thing, I didn't wanna overdo it,
Yeah.
'cause, if you're trying to just mimic and,
Yeah.
so
Im-
precisely, it's like
Imitation, it's essence. It's not imitation, for
there
sure.
you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think you're right. It's like trying to capture the essence of Tim, and everything that you guys, it was more like there's descriptor words
Yeah.
and things that you and Brent would talk about, or other people that knew Tim. Bart would even kind of mention about Tim, and I was like, okay, I'm like taking all this stuff in about Tim, and
Right.
I'm just letting it kind of sit and simmer in the pot and soak inside myself. And then when I would just be with Tim, I'm like, okay, try not to study him, try
Mhm.
not to like really watch him, but it's also, I every role that I take, I kind of like pick up just little things. I mean, even it's like, when like Tim kind of does
Yep.
his glasses and whatnot, and or the way he kind of leans forward when he talks. Um, and he's just always present there, like a weird unlocking factor, which I was having a hard time grabbing his voice,
Yeah.
because there was something about the quality of how he spoke. And like, I mean, I'm already at a disadvantage with like a super crooked mouth, but there's a quality about how he speaks that like, and this is very technical. But there was a quality about how he speaks. I'm like, I can't figure this out. And I had, of course, the vocal coach for singing, but I had a dialect coach that I was working with. And
Wow.
she said, she goes, you guys both grew up in Orange County. You guys both like kind of had like, similar upbringing and, the same dirt and all that. She's like, he's got a little bit of an overbite.
Hmm.
I'm like, huh? And even I said this to Tim, and Tim's like, I have an overbite.
He's all insecure now.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, no, that's not. But like, he has just like, there's like, just subtle little shift. And like, that was like a weird little like unlock moment. I'm like, oh man, I totally get his voice now. And I understand these things. And like, I can hear his voice not only through the speaker of my head, but through the speaker of my
Yeah,
mouth.
that's awesome.
And I was like, okay, cool. I can grab onto that. Um, um,
Yeah,
yeah, but I mean, playing like a real live human being, of course, who like has like he's got a wife, he's got family, he's got kids, he's got representation,
right.
of himself out in the world. I'm like, that is such a massive responsibility,
Yep.
such a massive responsibility. And like in getting to know Tim, as you already knew Tim, as Bart knew Tim, even John Michael knew Tim, I was like, oh, this guy is wonderful. He's just
Yeah.
such a wonderful human being. And the way that he lives through his adversity
Yeah.
and challenges and struggles, and even the moments where he's literally just like, even in those moments, I'm like, he's got such a beautiful presence, and he's always giving. He's
Yeah.
never asking for anything. He's always giving, and this just, it's hard not to want to just honor him
I
properly.
I was with him last night. We were screening the film
Mhm.
for a lot of influential people. He mentioned
Mhm.
like Jonathan Shack, who's a mutual friend of ours, reached out and
Mhm.
said, well, there was a couple in the room that were big, kind of heavy hitters, and one in particular that everybody was kind of clamoring over, and I watched him have the discipline, to just say what he believed from the stage and not to rush over to this guy and try to, kind of schmooze.
Mhm.
And that guy on the way out pulled me aside. He's like, I'm fascinated with that Tim Timmons guy. He's like, I'd like you to connect me with him at some point. I'd just love to talk and kind of compare notes.
Mhm.
And I went over and told Tim that. And he said, oh, that's such a relief because I just didn't want to be one of the guys that was trying to get his attention. And I really just bit my lip and stood over here. And I said,
Yeah.
in a world that doesn't have a lot of truly safe people, you're one of those. And then he broke into tears. He's like, that's what I
Dude,
try for.
he's a rock, man, and the thing is, it's like, I think he doesn't even know it.
Yep. He doesn't.
Like, he truly doesn't know it, but
No.
just that's kind of the beauty of Tim, he's just
Right.
he's so solid for everybody around him and present for everybody around him.
Yep. And the fun thing also is Tim's sense of humor is he deflects with
Mhm.
humor. And I think when you've gone through what Tim's gone through, you kind of developed a little bit of a warped sense of humor. So like
Mhm.
my favorite interaction was I was like it's always like a bit of an arranged marriage when you kind of connect the real life person with the person playing them. And it's always kind of a
Yeah.
delicate dance of not wanting to step on this person's craft or this person's, life that they lived.
Mhm.
And so I introduced you guys by text. And then Tim's first thing doesn't me to miss a beat. And he's like, I know there's a lot of pressure playing me as a real life person, but anytime somebody plays me, I usually start by sending him shirts off pictures of me. So we'll start
Mhm.
with that and work our way from there. And then you didn't miss a
Mhm.
beat. And like, I expect nothing less. That's my process too. And I was like,
Totally.
oh, this is going to work.
Yeah.
This is going to
Oh,
work.
it was love at first sight, man. We just dove in.
Yeah.
I mean, even too, like I noticed, this guy has a 949 area code in front of his phone number. I'm like, that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
And of course, like I knew he was from Orange County, but like,
You were like
you
2 miles
don't,
apart, right? You're like, you guys grew up like,
not, yeah, not really not far at all. I think we were four towns over. He grew up down in like Corona Del Mar area, and I grew up in the city of Orange.
that's
So
amazing.
it's like 5 stops on a bus kind of thing.
And with that, you really fully committed also to kind of altering your look for the, for the role. And like,
Sure.
it was important to you that, Tim's bald. And so you went with the shaved head. And I remember that
We would have gone shorter.
we would have gone shorter. But we went
Yeah.
we went short. It was funny because you had a lot of controversy in trying to figure out selling the idea of Jack having a mustache on
Mhm.
This Is Us, and you
Mhm.
fought really hard for that look, and it became iconic. And you were right.
Yeah.
And in this case, Lionsgate had a no bald head, no beard policy for leading men. And I was like, dude, he's playing a character that has both. And
Mhm.
so and you fought for like, we're gonna be authentic. And so
Mhm.
that day in the makeup trailer was one of the more stressful
Mhm.
days of my life, because I had certain portions of the producing unit yelling at me. I had Lionsgate just like hovering, and my phone's blowing up with text and like, send us pictures in real
Mhm.
time. And I'm looking at you with the wild look in your eye, and you're like, we're doing it, we're doing it.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
we cut it. We went with the safe kind of military buzz, with like, like a 3 guard or something like that. It was
Mhm.
pretty tame, and you've done that before. But then you looked
Mhm.
at me and you're like, it needs to be shorter. It needs to be
Yeah.
shorter. And then we're like, we're gonna
Yeah.
get yelled at. And
I
you're like,
remember, Andy, you were standing there, your arms were crossed so tight, I thought you were gonna like pop a diamond. And you just kinda you go like this, you're like, "Do it,
do
do it."
it.
You like threw your hand up and, "Yeah, do it." And
And
I
so,
remember Anna, she just yeah, she grabs the number one and just
yep.
and then I remember looking in the mirror and I turned and I looked back at you and you're like,
Yep.
"Yep,
It was
we're good."
good. And then we put the glasses
Yeah.
on you and you disappeared. And then,
Oh, yeah.
just to make Lionsgate happy, I walked around to the wardrobe department and I held up a picture of you on my phone. I was like, is he still hot? And all the girls started fanning their face. I'm like, how in the world do you shave this dude's head and he gets better looking? So everybody was, and then
You know,
Lionsgate saw it. They freaked out. They're like, this is great. We're happy.
yeah.
But
I was to say, man, you and Dan Fogelman, who created This Is Us, did the exact same thing with the mustache. He did the same thing with the mustache. You did the same thing with the buzzed head. Like, do you still like him?
yeah,
You still like him?
yeah. And it showed through, and it allowed you to really transform into a character. The thing I'm most satisfied about is people will look at you in the movie, and it takes them a second for it to place that, oh, that's Milo. Like, they're
Yeah.
like, oh, that's this Tim Timmons guy, I like him. Who? And then, oh, that's Milo Ventimiglia. And you
Hmm.
disappeared in this one in a way that I think stands out in your
Hmm.
body of work.
Thanks, man.
That I like.
Thanks, man. I mean, that's always the goal. Let the character live.
Yeah,
It's not about Milo on screen. It's about on screen. It's about Tim on
yeah,
screen. It's not about Milo. It's about Jack. It's about all these different characters that we as an audience have to really watch and learn from and learn to love and all of that. And I think if there's too much Milo on screen, I mean, even if I look like this,
right.
it's too much.
With we talked about earlier about, we're prepping for the movie. You're on a
Mhm.
Zoom with Tim Timmons. It's one of your first Zooms with him, if not the
Yeah,
first.
the first. It was the first.
And then all of a sudden you start seeing red, like kind of shadows on your wall, flickering on the wall.
Mhm.
What are your memories of that day and the Palisades fires?
Woke up really early to get my dog out for a walk. It was a struggle to get back uphill because the winds were so bad. Uh, Jara, my wife, had just gotten out of the shower because they were about to turn the power off on us because we knew. And she was 9 months pregnant, wanted a hot shower. And in my mind, I'm like, man, I got to go fire up the generator. Got to make sure I've got propane tanks and all that stuff, and get the internet up and running through a satellite and everything. And because I got a FaceTime with Tim, you know, and that was kind of like what it was. I knew they turned the power off. Wife's pregnant,
Hmm.
super windy out. That
Right.
was like the morning. Um, and we lived in a neighborhood that had zero cell service. Like I had to find a way to get internet, and things held. And I was on with Tim, and I was sitting at my dining table, and out the back slider of our house, I just see the sky go from blue to amber to blue to amber, and I was like, "That's not." There's just something not right about it. And so I grab my computer and I walk outside. I'm basically and we're like Tim and I are 45 minutes into this love fest. I
Yeah.
mean, just
Right.
like all kinds of stuff, and we're just like having the best time, and you know all these things, and I walk out in the back and I look at the hill behind my house. I mean, and like from there all the way to there, I just see this massive, massive brown cloud of smoke.
Wow.
And
Terrifying.
apparently my word, yeah, and Tim says to me, I said three expletives, repeated two and said one quite firmly,
Yeah.
very calmly. And then I said, Tim, I gotta go. And I turned my computer around and I showed him. He goes, "Oh, bro, you gotta go." I said, "Yeah, I'll call you later."
Wow.
I walked back in the house. I told Jer what was up. And from there it's go time. So fire had crested the hill, but it was close enough to, get trucks and law enforcement, sheriff department into the neighborhood to say, "Hey, it's evacuation time. You got to go." And so we had, I don't know, about 45 minutes
Yeah.
where we were collecting things and grabbing things, but also like the back of your mind, you're like, no, this neighborhood had been here for 60 years.
Yeah.
And people in the neighborhood that had been there that long had always said that there's been fires in the hills. It's never gotten into the neighborhood. So you have this false sense of security. Like I was about to hook my camper up to my trunk and I'm like, that's going to be a pain in the ass to like get it back inside the driveway and I got to wedge it in and all this stuff. And, am I going to grab all these things? No, because I'm going to have to put them all back later on tonight or tomorrow. And it's just a pain in the butt. And so, you grab the minimal because my wife was pregnant. We had our hospital bags packed and ready to go. So we had 3 days of clothes. I grabbed 2 surfboards, marriage certificate, passports, computer, maybe a couple hard drives with some photographs. And kind of that was it. There was like, not much. And then we were like, all right, well, let's get out of here. And, very long story short, I think after hosing the house down and, oh yeah, we had another house under construction,
Yep. For your
8
in-laws.
doors away. hmm and telling that crew to go home and hosing that house down. I think, by the time we got out of there was just before noon. And we sat at the bottom of the hill watching the neighborhood just getting bombed with water trucks, or
Yeah.
sorry, water planes
Yeah.
and helicopters. And then, because Jared's pregnant, had to get her a little further up into Malibu to get her some food and a bathroom. And I kept checking back on security cameras, and security cameras are like blue skies. I mean, blue skies, bright blue,
Wow.
blue as right now skies on the cameras. And I'm thinking, and I keep looking at Jared. I'm like, we're good. We're gonna be good. They're gonna beat this. They're gonna fight this. They're
Wow.
gonna save our neighborhood. And I remember paying at the restaurant, using the bathroom, walking out to the truck,
Yeah.
turn my cameras back on, and everything is on fire. Everything is on fire. And I was like,
Man.
oh no, oh man. And at
Oh,
that point, we kind of watched it all burn for about 15 minutes before we turned it off,
man.
collected ourselves, and then drove to our friend's house down in an old neighborhood that we both used to live in,
Man.
and being taken in by some friends, and knowing that everything was gone, and all we had literally were each other, our dog, my truck, 2 surfboards, marriage certificates, passports, computer, and a couple hard drives.
Man.
Like Andy, I didn't even have any underwear, man.
Man, it's crazy,
Yeah, it's
bro.
crazy.
Well, and
You
I do respect your wife as a professional surfer. That she chose the surfboard first. So surfboard
Here's the
first,
thing.
underwear later. So yeah,
She didn't even say that. That was the first on my
you
mind.
knew that's
This
what
was
you.
this
Yeah.
this was the board she'd had since she was 17 years
That's
old.
a good
I'm
man.
like, that
Like, your wife.
that has to come to us.
You know
Yeah.
your wife.
Yeah.
Well, and in that, and like, and I remember seeing the news footage, because the only way for you to kind of get back in there was to kind of go with the news crews, and
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
and you did the news interview in order to go back and see what had survived with your house, and just the tragedy
Yeah.
of it was nothing. It was just slab. We talked right after that, and
Yeah.
I
We had a scheduled table read like what 2
we
days
did.
after.
We did. And I met with Brent and the producing team, and I just said, what do we do? Because this is way bigger than a movie. And so we called prepared to just like, hey, if we need to, pull the plug on this, let's choose Milo as a person over the movie. And just to brag on you, like, I got you on a FaceTime, and I said, bro, if you want to pause, if you want to pull the plug completely, like, what do you need from us? And you said, I've talked to my wife, and I feel like I need to process this stuff on camera. And it's really healthy for us to get back to work, and it's really healthy for me to dive into it. And the role that you're playing in Tim Timmons is obsessed with this guy, Horatio Spafford, that wrote It As Well With My Soul, who lost everything in a fire. And
Eerie, isn't
it
it?
was
Isn't it so
eerie.
eerie?
And I asked Jara, I just said, listen, you have the kill switch. You kill this at
Mhm.
any point, we stop. And she's like, no, I know my husband. I know the man I'm married, and he needs to go do this.
Yeah.
And you poured it all into this role. And I just remember there was a moment when you're telling Horatio's story in the film, and
Mhm.
you're telling it to the crowd. And the first time we didn't roll cameras, and at first I was kicking myself because but I think it was something really sacred that the rehearsal that you did, that was for your soul.
Mhm.
And that was one I got to participate with you as a friend. It was like that was sacred
Yeah.
turf. And you did your rehearsal, and you just had this moment where you were reliving it, and it was something really cathartic and therapeutic, and it was a magic thing that set this honoring atmosphere over the whole building with 3,000
Mhm.
extras. Hearing you do that, and then I remember Trace Adkins coming out in tears, who lost
Mhm.
one of his houses in a fire in the past, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Do you guys understand what he just did?" And it kind of berates the crowd, not berates, but like challenges him. It's like, this dude just lost two houses in the fire, and he did that.
Mhm.
And Trace, who is hard to make cry, was in tears. Like, it was a cool moment, and I was super proud of the courage that you did in a very not indulgent but very
Mhm.
vulnerable way of accessing that when a lot of people would have quit.
I needed it. I needed it as a human being. I needed it as a husband. I needed it as a father to be able to jump into the role in the moment that I was having, that my family was having. You guys allowed the space for it, and the common ground of like the Horatio Spafford story, or just Tim and who he is in his grateful place, the community of filmmakers, and I'll say all of us a part of that are
Mm-hmm.
all
Yep.
filmmakers, um, allow the room for it. That day when we filmed all that stuff, that big 4-page monologue, that was actually the first thing I started learning. So I'm like,
Yeah. It's a beast.
it's a beast, and it's wrapped in songs, and of course, like how it got edited was a little different. But that was a tough, tough, tough day, single day of filming
Yep.
for all of
Yep.
us. And I remember, like, you had so much on your plate. You had so much on your plate that you didn't have time for Mai to indulge this, like, hey man, let me just rock a rehearsal so everybody hears what I'm doing. So they know. In the back of my mind, though, I'm like, I know exactly what I'm doing
Yes.
in terms of I know what this story is.
Yep.
I'm even like, I had written, because in watching Tim always accompanies all of his
Yep.
storytelling and his prayers and stuff with
Yep.
his just, fingers
Pick of the
moving on a
guitar.
guitar.
Yep.
And so I kind of like had written this little kind of ditty and this little thing, and it made sense. And then Sammy and I worked out a beat where we were kind of sharing it on
Yep.
stage, and I'm like, hey, I'm like, Andy, let me just run one. He's like, yeah, no, I got it. We're good. I'm like, no, let me just do one. And I remember John Michael and the boys all sitting there, and they're like, no, just like let him do one. And I kind of was like,
Yeah.
you were talking to them, I was doing it over, you're talking to them, just kind of doing it for them. And then finally it was like, yeah, okay, mine, like, just go ahead and give a rehearsal. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, no, you're right. And you said it, you're like, you're right, let's do a rehearsal. And I did that. And I remember after that, yeah, everybody's like, why are cameras not rolling? Johnny Drangel's like, I gotta get a camera up. Where are we gonna put it first? And all this stuff. And I was like, nah, man, don't worry about it. I'll do that over and
Yeah.
over and over and over and over again
Yeah.
all
It
day
was
long.
awesome.
It's because it was fun.
It was awesome.
Oh man,
I
I
was
mean, it's
so
such a
proud.
story, but it was also so much fun.
I was so proud of the courage, and that's where I think a really healthy actor director relationship
Mhm.
is one of equality. Uh,
Yeah,
I think that a lot of people see that as like a tiered position, but I think the people that are at the very top of your call sheet and you as a director, it's a partnership.
absolutely.
Is there's going to be days where I'm going to have to lean on you and push you, but then there's days where you
Mhm.
turn around and you lean on me and you push me. And if there's a
Mhm.
trust there, we're going to make each other better at our job.
And
And
that's yeah,
it
yeah,
leaves
yeah.
room for discovery. And I'm like, oh, what do you see?
Mhm.
And I mean, and you sat in the chair in a producer and director
Mhm.
position, so you know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
You're not a novice. You're very
Sure.
good at what you do. But there's just times where you would push me. I'd be like, okay, what are you seeing? And you'd be like,
Mhm.
you just kind of turn my head the other direction, be like, look over here. I'd be like, oh,
Mhm.
that's nice.
Yeah.
And then there's other days where I'd push you and be like, you got to dig deep for me. I need a little bit more.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I loved that interaction, that relationship. It was really good for me.
Oh, dude, it's well, it feeds that also desire of like, "Oh, hey, we told this story, cool.
Yeah,
What are we doing next?"
exactly.
What well, like, and, you know, and then you just and then within all that, you know, comes friendship, and you just like, "Oh, I just wanna work with my friends,"
Right,
you know?
right.
I just you know, because 'cause they're going back to what you said, like, trust. There's trust and there's faith in the people that you're linking arms with, and you're right, it's like some days you're gonna lead, some days you're gonna follow, but, like, you know you're always safe and you're always going to protect,
Yeah,
you know? It's like everything that I do, I'm like, "No, hey, man, I'm there to protect Andy.
yeah.
I'm there to protect Brent. I'm there to protect the film," you know, every single piece of it, I'm there to serve.
And I appreciated how you did that. Like even just how you led the culture on the set
Mhm,
is you fought, you know, the power of your position on the call sheet
mhm,
and how it sets the tone. And I think that the tone is set by the director and the people at the top of the call sheet. And
mhm.
so like there was times, like, just to brag on you, and you wouldn't tell this yourself, but like there was a time where we were filming at Red Rocks, and the makeup department needed to get up the hill because it's not an easy climb to get up to the stage. And so we had an ATV, and so there was only so much room because they had gear to take up. And so we put the makeup team in there, and then there was only one seat in the front, and then there was the back, gator loading area for
Truck
equipment, the
bed.
truck bed,
Truck
the
bed.
truck bed. And I was like, here, Mike, you take the front. You're like, no, dude. He's like, that's your seat. And then you got in the
Yeah.
back and you sat in the truck bed. And a lot of
Mhm.
actors would be like, this is beneath me, you know, that what, no, you're like, no, I'm doing this intentionally because I'm
Mhm.
protecting your authority. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, dang, that is a leading man. Literally. So to brag on you with that.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
A couple last things and we'll start wrapping up. But like one of the other things I really appreciated about you is you really worked hard to honor Tim's faith and what he believed, and really trying to make
Mhm.
that accurate and feel real, and studied what
Mhm.
he believed. And you know, especially with faith film as it's kind of nuanced and become more accessible to the mainstream, but still maintaining the purity of the audience we serve.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
were your views coming in on like taking on Tim's faith and serving the audience? And what's your view on like faith film as a whole, and why as an actor it's not as scary to be a part of it now as maybe in the past it was something else?
I mean, there's a couple different ways to look at it, and, like, this is kinda how I always saw it. The first conversation we'd had, I was like, "Hey, I don't have the same path as you, the same faith as you. I do have faith and belief and spirituality, but it's not, traditionally the same as
Yeah,
yours. Um, but what I do have is goodness, and what you have is goodness, and I think we can find that common place and space." And we agreed on that. It was
for
like,
sure.
"Yeah, no, we're here for that." Beyond that, I mean, listen, I've read the Bible. I've read the teachings of Jesus Christ. I'm like, everything he says, you know, is a very good, loving thing, good way of
Sure.
living, good, loving way of living. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
You know, I can always get behind that. When I got to know Tim, one of the early things he said to me, and I feel like he'll say this, so I'm not misrepresenting him, but he says, "I don't work for God anymore."
Mm.
And I kind of heard
Yep.
that. And you know, and the way Tim would always talk about it, he's like, "I just want to walk with Jesus.
Yep.
I just want to walk with him."
That's it.
And, you know, and kind of going into like his 10,000 minutes thing, he's like, you know, there's, you know, only an hour of Sunday or on a Sunday where you go and sit with church. But what about the other 10,000 minutes in a week or
Yep.
whatever measure of time it was? You know, like, he's like, "I just want to walk with Jesus in those moments."
Man.
And everything that I'd ever read about Jesus, the man, and everything that I understood about his teachings and his way of life and his love and his acceptance and his inspiration and just everything,
Yeah.
his giving of himself in every way. I was like, you know, I think Tim Timmons is like the purest form of a Christian I've ever met before in my life.
Wow. I
He
would
is
agree.
some he is somebody that is walking the path of the Lord in such a way that is it's inclusive, um, it's loving, it's giving, it's serving, and I was like, "How could I not do this?"
Hmm.
There's no world or no way, and also, like, I'm not afraid of it, and I think so many times people will get caught up creatives can get caught up in their differences with something, and they'll make reasons of why they can't be a part of something because they feel like they're selling.
Right.
But kind of what we know is we're
Yep.
storytellers.
That's it.
We're telling stories. That's all we're doing.
Yep.
And if in this world I'm telling a story, linking arms with you, another storyteller, telling the story of a man who lives purely in the way of Jesus, and it's a beautiful story to tell, and there's a lot of mention of Jesus or the Lord or Christianity or anything, and it's like, yeah, cool, all right, I'm more than happy to be a part of this because it goes back to my fundamentals, which is goodness.
Hmm.
And I think there's a lot of goodness in the truth of Jesus. And, we've talked about it, and Tim and I have
Yeah.
talked about it. And, you know, I love you guys and you love me. And I think the whole message of, real faith and belief, the fundamental like foundation of it is love,
I love that.
pure love.
Well, I think that, and that's what the people that we love to work with is,
Hmm.
I always talk about like as we step into this, because we don't want it to be something we're selling. We want it to be something we're presenting as somebody's
Yeah.
experience in a way that
Hmm.
I find very life changing, and a lot of
Hmm.
people do. But I want it to be pure, and so we love working with what we call benevolent skeptics. Is they're people that
Hmm.
they've got questions and
Sure.
they're asking questions and they're on a journey and letting
Hmm.
them be on that journey and loving them and embracing them to be a part of that as we tell stories of real life people and their experiences and what they believe. And so
Hmm.
uh, I loved your perspective because you came into it very curious and
Yeah.
you stayed curious the entire time. And I think that curiosity and the way that you tried to understand like what makes this Timmons guy tick,
Hmm.
and trying to get down to a soul level kind of core belief system for him, you really captured it because you're curious. And so
Hmm.
those are the kind of people I love to work with. I actually seek them out because I think it keeps me honest, of making the product pure and the
Yeah.
films connect. And so I love that about you. In one of the scenes that you did that with, that was my favorite, and it was the one that you said, I think you said was the reason that you signed on to the movie, was the big scene between you and John Michael as Bart in the studio.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
this, I don't want to give it away, but there's a really cool revelation that happens in that about your character. And
Hmm.
the way that you played that, and when the turn in the scene came, and then the message preaches, and we've been very restrained not to, but that moment really preaches. And the whole message is the idea that
Hmm.
you run from these fires in your life, but God's in the fire with you. And so God is in this fire, and it's beautiful.
Hmm.
And the idea of
Hmm.
grief and gratitude, that
Yeah.
moment just, it kills. And you and John Michael were such great dance partners in that scene. So I was really proud
Hmm.
of how that, what was that, your
Thanks,
recollections of
man.
that moment?
I mean, I remember when we read it, 2 days post fire, and it was you and Brent and myself and John
Yep.
Michael, and that was it. And we read it, and I remember the delivery of that line,
Yep.
where Tim has that admission to Bart. I remember hearing it in my head, and it never changed.
Hmm.
And I remember I did it in the table read, over Zoom with you guys, and then I did it the same kind of on the day. It's just it was an anchor for me to be able to admit it so simply,
Hmm.
and not in a way of trying to come over the top of what Bart is experiencing in that moment.
Yeah.
If anything, it was more an invitation with open hands to say, "Hey, no, no, let me actually let me pull you in, and allow myself to like be pulled in by you and
Yep.
what we're experiencing as human beings. But there was something about that scene, and you know, when I read it, my wife was pregnant,
Yep.
and then my daughter was born,
Yep.
and it was like, oh,
Yeah. This raised the
it
stakes.
just, I mean, even, yeah, it
100%.
just totally raises the stakes. I mean, even now, it's like I think about like Jared and I, we were watching something on TV last night. It was a parent losing a teenage child, and like both of us kind of look at each other and we're in
Yeah.
tears. And so, like, you know, what Tim uh, is describing about his fears of his own, you know, his own condition of mortality, you know, and missing out on life with his child, is just, that stuff was real.
Yeah.
That was real. Like, you know, I don't have to go to an imaginary place like I did with water babies as a child. It's like, no, no, no. Fully understand what this feels
Yeah.
like. And I don't need to intellectualize it.
Uh-huh.
I have these words that are the path. I just have to let that feeling
Yeah.
walk side by side, step by step with those words, you know,
What
hearing little technical cues from you and Brent
very
and Johnny
minimal, just
Durango,
letting you do
and
your
then
thing.
at the same time, like just being there with John Michael, just looking him in the eye, you know, and like he and I did, we just, I mean, the whole film, we did a lot of that in the hospital there, in the bus, you know, just everywhere. It was just like, hey man, let's just be here together, looking at each other and like, you know, saying these awesome words.
Yeah. Dude, well, the thing also is the way that you perform that scene, there was such a confidence that you had to just, it was just small brushstrokes of sitting in the material and just sitting in that heavy uh, emotion with gravitas, but not needing
Mhm.
to. It was there was nothing performative or indulgent about
Yeah.
it. You were very present, and I think one of the most powerful, I think, emotions that I've been learning more and more about is just healthy anger, and
Hmm.
is rage is about being afraid of losing something, but anger is
Sure.
about passion that you want something. And
Mhm.
there's this anger that Tim has in that moment of knowing what his philosophy is, and it's being tested and tried by fire. And he's like, and I still believe it. And the way that you sat in
Yeah.
that with that quiet, confident anger in the middle of all the pain that he was feeling, like, man, I've never been more proud of an actor than just
Thanks, man.
that. I mean, that's a veteran move to be able to have confidence in the material to sit in it.
Also, too, kind of what you're saying, like there's just restraint.
Yep, restraint.
You
That's the
know,
word.
I think a lot of actors, we measure our worth in how far we can push our
Right.
emotions.
And that's for
You
you.
know,
That's not
like
for the audience.
and 100%. You know, and it's like, but if you can actually hold restraint in a way that is getting you on that edge and that line of just
Wait, and
going being just too
the
much.
thing about a veteran actor too is that restraint. A lot of people misinterpret that, and they think restraint is being passive. It's not. It's feeling
No.
every bit of that big emotion that you just described because you feel it,
Hmm.
but then you just put a cap on it where it can't escape, and it restrains it.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
you're still portraying all those big emotions, but it's in your eyes. It's just in the background, and it's just
Yeah,
that
it's in
slow
your
simmer.
eyes and your voice is, you know, yeah, you're right.
And
Yeah.
so I was really proud of you. The
Thanks,
as
man.
we wrap up, like, you know, with the film, you know, it feels like what was considered uh cheesy or whatever in the past of hopeful films, right now the world is craving them like crazy.
Oh
And
yeah.
why do you think the world needs stories like these, stories of hope like these right now?
I think to remind us of what life should be,
Yeah.
you know, because I mean, you look at the news, you look at the state of the world, you look at, I mean, you know, depending on where you live, the state of your city, and there's just hard, difficult, you know, problem. But when you redirect a little bit and you look at something, you don't have to go but a few degrees to left or right to look at it just a little bit differently
Yeah.
and kind of peek around that curtain and say, oh, this is how we could be doing things.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes I think we all need the gentle reminder, and sometimes we need a kick in the butt to say, hey, uh, how we're doing this is maybe not quite the best, and let's do better for ourselves, and let's do better for everybody else around us. So I think that idea of, movies like ours being the desire right now doesn't surprise me at all.
Well,
Not one bit.
uh, for you, any advice for, like, you talk about us all being storytellers, young
Mhm.
storytellers, people trying to find their voice. What makes a great storyteller, and what advice would you give to that younger version of yourself
I mean,
as a
I think
storyteller?
honesty, sincerity, and service.
Hmm.
Think about others when you're there. I'll think about yourself. Be pure with what your intentions are. Be sincere about it, and just make it real from action to cut
Hmm.
safely. Safely.
Yeah, safely,
you know,
safely.
safely. You don't need to take the drugs. You don't need to
Don't go.
use the
Don't go.
weapons. You don't need to hit
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah.
Safely. But I think as emotional professionals, our job is to make something so real that people believe the experience we're having on camera.
Hmm.
And in that, it's going to give these people that cathartic moment. It's going to give them the real boost that they need for real life. So I think, honesty, sincerity, and service. Those are the things that I'd say to any younger actor. Just be honest about your performance. Don't make it a performance. Just be honest.
Love it.
Be sincere about your intentions with it and serve the people around you. That's all you got to do.
That's awesome. I totally agree with that. That's great advice.
Mhm.
For me, my like, uh, you've so firmly earned my trust uh,
Likewise.
that my policy when I find a relationship like that is, like, I send you a script and be like, tell me what you want to play, and like you're in. Like, just tell me. I mean,
You've dude, you sent me one and I'm like, cool, whatever you want. And you told me about another, I'm like, cool, whatever you want.
it's great, man, and it's just there's a mutual trust where it's like, I trust you with whatever material you're attracted to, and
Mhm.
so I'm
Yeah,
excited that I think this is going to be the first of many films that we do together,
same.
and to walk out of this with a film that we're proud of, and also a friendship that is legit and genuine, is the best
Mhm.
gift that this industry can ever give you. So
Right.
proud of you, my friend.
Thanks, man. Likewise, super proud of you.
All right, bud. Well, thanks for being on Storytellers, and we'll be hanging out really soon. So that's our show. One of the things I love that Milo said was just talking about the idea of work ethic, and the idea of being the hardest working guy and just being a guy that people like. And I think there's something to be said for both of those things. I just think, especially for young filmmakers listening to the show, the idea of being like, it's not about you being the most talented person, it's just about you working really, really hard for it and being easy to work with. And there's just something to be said for being a team player. And those people, consistently, people want to hire them. So whether you're an actor, or you're a filmmaker, or producer, it's how you do your job. And I think one of the things I've really fallen in love with of late is it's not just what we do, it's how we do it. And when you do it with class and excellence, and you do it treating people well and inviting them into the journey, there's unexpected things that happen, and it really makes a big impact, and I think makes a better what. So that's my encouragement to you guys today. Keep making your movies, keep telling your stories, and we'll see you on the next edition of The Storytellers.
The Storytellers is a Kingdom Story Company production. It is produced by Nick Carey and Beecher Proch with production assistance from Ben and Justin Bailey. Our executive producers are Brandon Gregory and Joshua Walsh. Social media for the show is run by the Troops and Allies team. Our music is Twisted Rooster by Tommy Prophet. Special thanks to our entire team at Kingdom Story Company. To make sure you never miss out on any of our exciting guests, subscribe to The Storytellers on YouTube at Kingdom Story Company or wherever you listen to podcasts. For exclusive first looks at our upcoming films, behind-the-scenes content, and invitations to advanced screenings, join the conversation as a Kingdom Insider at kingdomstorycompany.com. As always, thanks for joining Andrew Erwin and his friends on The Storytellers.